the Italian Football Podcast.
Let's move on to another team in Turin that's struggling right now, and that is Juventus. I think we can probably call it a crisis now. It's certainly a crisis when you add everything together. When you add the absolutely outrageous situation with the injuries together with the results, which aren't losses but are draws, and the problems that Juventus are having with creating chances, even against the weakest of opposition like Lecce. And I think we can call it a crisis. I think we can. I think we can call it a crisis. It's not over exaggerating to call it a crisis.
I'm sorry, but when your expected goals, including Thuram's, shocking open goal miss, which hit the post, is 1.3 away against Lecce, who have struggled a lot this season. I don't know what else to tell you. This is not. Lecce have conceded 21 goals before they played Juve in 13 games. Okay, they've had a managerial change. Gianpaolo's come in and he's actually doing pretty well. This was an important, point and decent performance for them. They won their game against Venezia, but it's still. This is just simply not good enough.
It's not good enough. But I want to start before I get to
what I said last week, that you can talk about injuries all you want, but this has been going on all season. Barring Como game and Empoli game, or it's not Empoli, they drew that, no goalless, but barring those opening games in the season, Juventus are completely impotent going forward. And that's just a fact.
Well, you mentioned the Thuram, the XG overall in the game. If you remove that Thuram chance, which is a 0.88 XG, Juventus in the first half had an XG of 0.1. If you remove that Thuram chance, and the second half in total is a 0.25 XG. So that they had a lower XG than Lecce in this game, even including the Thuram the Thuram chance, and one goal in the last 3 games, and that goal was, let's be honest, it's a complete fluke from Cambiasso. He's taken a long shot. It's not going to threaten the goalkeeper if it's even on. I don't even know if it was on target, and it takes a massive deflection of Gaspar and goes in. That's the only way that Juventus were probably going to score in this game. I know they hit the post twice, but I've read out the XG.
No, but they're not creating enough. No one can tell me that they create enough, and that's the problem. They're not creating enough chances. These things, like we said, the early season bounce enthusiasm, it wears off. Now we're 14 games into the Serie A, and they have the most clean sheets. They have 10 clean sheets in Serie A. It's an outstanding record. And that's great. The defense is not the issue. The issue is they're barely creating anything going forward. And this is how it's been under Thiago Motta since he came to Juve, regardless of
the possession in this game and in general is the build-up was... Juventus were very, very flat. The possession so sterile, just too slow, not enough vertical direct passes in this game and in general. Everything I'm going to say here is generally true as a whole, but I'll talk just for this game. But too slow, too many sideways passes, making it way too easy for Lecce to set up their team into position and trying to score the perfect goal. You've got to be more direct sometimes. Look how Juventus scored the goal. It was a shot from outside the area that took a deflection and went in. Sometimes you've got to be direct. Sometimes just smash a ball across the box. Sometimes just whip a ball in first time. Sometimes put a ball in the channel, put the defenders under pressure, win it back. You know what I mean? Sometimes you've got to be a little bit ugly. Yes, you've got to have an identity. And I love the idea that Juventus have an identity now and they're trying to build something. I think that's great, and we have to give it time. But sometimes you've got to also have a little bit... You can't just have one way of playing it to be this sterile. I thought that the team was really lacking pace and intensity. That is also, which we'll come to, is also, I think, down to the fact that, and Motta said this at the end of the game, team is exhausted because they haven't been able to rotate. It's the same players playing.
Well, he's got no players to rotate.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got players who sound like regen names.
Mm.
Like I'm sorry, but I mean, looking at the
No, the
Juventus.
guy that come on yesterday, his name was Pugno, which means punch.
Yeah, listen, Diego Pugno, Alfonso Montero, Paolo Montero's son, Filippo Pagnucco, Augusto Ovuso, Christos Papadopoulos. Like these are just, it's number 43, 45, 46, 42, 44. Like it's just,
They've taken over from Verona last season, wasn't it? Verona were Regen
yeah.
FC last season,
Like,
and they're playing like
Juventus or
Verona.
Regen FC this season. Like these names sound like when you're on season 23 on Football Manager, and the computer just makes up names.
It's like when you play on Football Manager, like when sometimes like you play in Europe and you haven't downloaded the large database and you're using the small database to try and make the game run quicker. And you go into Europe and you play against a team in Europe, even some of the bigger teams in Europe, and they haven't got all their real names, so they have like those greyed out regens, and they're not very good. That is, I think that's Juventus's bench. It probably explains why Juventus. I mean, Juventus is. You know what? You're talking about Juventus not scoring a goal. I was having a look at Juventus's next gen team, and I think they're like bottom or second from bottom in Serie C. And when I checked like last week, I don't know how they got on at the weekend. They'd scored I think one goal in 7 games or one goal in 8 games. So it's like this isn't just the Juventus. Like everything, like the injury situation, this isn't just a Juventus senior problem. This is a Juventus next gen problem. So the idea that you can have Juventus players on the bench and think that they're going to do anything and score when they can't even score in Serie C is not going to happen. But I mean, I do think that the lack of energy and intensity that's also down to the. I don't want to put that on Motta, but it is a team that is very, very much labouring in more ways than one. Very, very much struggling. And just too easy to set up against and defend. It's just so easy to just set your team up to defend against them, and they're not going to create. I think that is obviously, we've said it so many times, I think that is a weakness of Motta. I think what the difference between this team and the Bologna team is that they had Riccardo Calafiori, who is a press-breaking, overloading machine from defence that comes into the midfield, creates that extra man, breaks the line, creates overloads, bombards even into the final third. And he was so important for Bologna in the build-up, in this kind of Motta build-up, in that he would create that extra man, and then it would just, the dominoes would fall from there, and they would create and score. Juventus don't have that. I mean, Motta uses Cambiasso to do that, and I think Cambiasso's had a great season, although I want to come on to him in a second. But it's Cambiasso, and everything is coming through Cambiasso. It's like all the playmaking is through Cambiasso, and I think teams have come onto that. They've cottoned onto that, and it's becoming predictable. It's like he's the playmaker of the team. It's always Cambiasso. He comes in field, and it's just become all too predictable, really. I think tactically teams are starting to find out how to stop Juventus. You double up on Conceição, which Lecce were doing. You follow Cambiasso because he's the deep line playmaker, and everything else is sideways and slow and sterile, and it's become too predictable. I didn't like Motta's changes either yesterday. I understand that he's got nothing on the bench.
I was going to say, I can't criticize him for that.
Well, he took off Yildiz and Conceição for youth players. Mbangula, okay, he did all right at the start of the season, but Pugno and Juventus. So Juventus finished the game with Weah, Mbangula, and Pugno in the last kind of like 15 to 20 minutes. And yeah, okay, I get he doesn't have any options, and he said they were exhausted. And yes, the last thing you want is another injury. So I guess I don't want to be too critical, but he really did invite pressure from this Lecce team. I would have just kept them on. If you get an injury, then you go to Giuntoli and you say, "Look, this is your fault." But I think he just invited that pressure from Lecce, and they eventually got the equaliser. But yeah, it's not good. I have to say though, Nima, I'm so angry at Cambiasso though. That is just unforgivable. What he did is unforgivable. You just cannot do that. You've got 2 minutes left of the game. And he did it twice. Before Lecce scored, he got the ball in the right back position. He tried to dribble his man. He half slipped, lost it. The cross came in. Kristovic did a great header, and Perin pulled off a miracle save. I think it was offside, But that was the warning for Cambiasso. You've got 2 minutes left. Why the hell are you playing around with it, trying to dribble your man in your own third? And what does he do? Like 30 seconds later, he gets the ball in the right back position. He goes on this mental run through the middle of the pitch, so not even out wide. He tries to dribble past 3 players. He gets tackled. Lecce equalise. Lecce win the ball. They pass it to the left back, the left wing area, the right back area where Cambiasso's vacated. The cross comes in from Cambiasso's position. They tap it in. They score. It's all Cambiasso's fault. Unforgivable, that from Cambiasso. And if Motta, he was asked about it. He's diplomatic. He doesn't hang his players out to dry. He deserves hanging up for that, Cambiasso. That is disgrace. That is unforgivable that you do that in the 92nd minute. Unforgivable. He's cost Juventus 2 points there on his own. Unforgivable.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything he said. I just think that he is kind of, let's remember he's not exactly a senator himself, but he's kind of been given that role at Juve, and I think you're going to see him make these mistakes until he learns from. I think he will learn from them. I'm not too worried about that. I'd rather he make these mistakes now than maybe next season when Juve are supposed to actually fly off and mount a serious title challenge, which they still can do. I mean, again, Paregentus, as we can call them, after 8 draws, are still there. They still haven't lost a game. Okay, they're 6 points off Napoli's, but 6 wins, 8 draws, 8 conceded, 10 clean sheets.
But they're falling away, and if this continues, I tweeted at the end of the game, if 2 things continue as they are, Juventus are going to struggle for top 4. I still think they'll be okay, but if these 2 things continue, which all Juventus fans will hope that they don't, if these 2 things continue, which I'm about to say, Juventus are going to struggle to get in the top 4, and that is number one, this chance creation, which we've already lack of chance creation, which we've gone through, which needs to be solved, and that includes, I think, they need to sign a striker in January. There's no doubt about it. They need to sign a number 9. Weah's not a 9. Weah was horrific, but he's not a 9. You can't be too critical. Just like you couldn't be critical of McKennie throwing in a stinker at number 9 against Milan. He's not a number 9. But even like Vlahovic, Juventus need a striker, a reference point, like a Lukaku, who hasn't even been in great form, but a Lukaku who can just hold it up, can just bring others into play, just be the wall, be the man.
Which Vlahovic cannot.
Which Vlahovic can't do, so it's not going to improve.
Which is what Allegri tried to teach him for the many years he was there, and he just refuses to get it. Look, I think
he's not capable. I think it's not just.
Well, that's the thing. Then I don't. If he's not capable of that, then he's not a top level striker. It's as simple as that. If you're a top level striker, you have to know how to play with your back against the goal. You have to be able to put others into play. You have to be able to link up. You can't be a tap-in merchant playing for a top side that wants to win the league. Especially in the Serie A, especially when teams defend deep against you, when you have to create your own space, you have to create space for others.
But I think we have to say though, Nima, Giuntoli is also to blame for leaving.
Oh, for sure, I said it last week.
For leaving Juventus in a situation where they don't have a striker, and they're having to play these games. Again, I'm not, and we're not absolving blame of Motta. We've been pretty clear that the Juventus are not creating enough chances, and you can't put that all on, just not having a number 9. But when you don't have a number 9, it's not easy because everything.
Well, it doesn't make it easier. No,
can you imagine? If you took Lukaku out of the Napoli team, it would be very, very difficult for
Yes, but the difference is that Napoli have a clear identity and structure of how they want to attack. And like I said last week, just go back and listen to what I said. I just want to echo everything. Juventus play really well and look really good in the build-up phase until they reach the opposition's box. They flatline. Their attacking identity flatlines. They don't know what to do. They have no idea what they're going to do. They spam crosses, hoping something happens. But they look completely lost. That's on Motta. Now, the squad overall, and this injury situation, and that the squad isn't constructed properly, that's all on Giuntoli. But then again, there were mistakes made in the summer. They did as much as they could. The injury situation, okay, the ACLs I can't really blame on the medical staff, but because that's not something you can, it's
Well, that's open for
well,
debate as well.
mm,
Not the medical staff, but the whole. We don't know. We're
I don't
not.
know.
We don't
ACLs,
know. No, we don't know what the training's like. Is it too intense? Are they overtraining the players and tiring the players out, which do
mm,
cause ACLs? We know that. That's the number
yeah,
one factor: overplaying,
yeah,
overtraining,
yeah,
lack of
overloading and too much.
overloading, lack of
Yeah,
rest. That causes. We don't know whether we don't know what Motta's training's like and what the preseason was like, and we're not sure. But also two of those are for the for the next gen, their next gen play. Two of those ACLs, but still, two
yeah,
ACLs is too many in
yeah,
November.
yeah. But the ACLs, I don't want to. It's fine. That's great, but at the same time, the issue is that they have 13 outfield players in the first team.
Well, you could even say
That is
you could even
just
say 12. I mean, and Bangula wasn't even supposed to be a senior player this year. He's been the reason why Bangula was brought into the first team squad in the first place was because of a lack of numbers, and then he's just
mm,
kind of stayed there because there's no one there. Now
no, because he's been
people are
good
calling him a
also.
senior player. You could really say 12,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I mean, it's absurd. It's a scandal. It's a scandal, and I think you know, I think I think heads should roll for this. It's a scandal. We're talking about the biggest club in Italy. You know, we're talking about one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and what they've got all these injuries, all this money that's in the club, and
All this money that they spent, all this money that they do spend on medical staff, on research and facilities. 12, 13 first team players available in early December. A new coach whose attacking identity flatlines when it reaches the
it's
opposition's
been
box.
ongoing though,
A
Nima.
number 9 striker who doesn't know how to play as a number 9 striker in a big team, plays like a provincial striker. Yeah, I'd say
No, I
that
just
this
no, I
heads
just want to.
needs to roll.
Yeah, well, I want to just focus just on the injury situation. Heads need to roll with in terms of who is to. There needs to be a proper investigation. Who is to blame for this? What is causing this? And whoever is to blame needs the heads. Some of those heads need to roll because this cannot be allowed to be acceptable, and it's ongoing as well. This isn't something that's just this has been happening predating this season. And what is worse for me is what I find incredible is the recoveries, how long the recoveries are taken. That is a J medical problem.
Hmm.
Some of these things are not J medical, because obviously, we're talking about injuries happening. It's like blaming the hospital for you having a heart attack. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you can't just blame J medical for
No.
everything, but the recoveries you can because that's in J medical's hands. The recoveries, we're getting players with supposedly minor muscular injuries like Nico Gonzalez, who was only supposed to be out for a few weeks. He's been out for 2 months. He's still not back. What the hell's going on there? Why is he taking so long? Then you've got players that are taken out for precautionary reasons before a game, like Douglas Luiz was before a Champions League game. He wasn't even injured. He was taken out as a precaution. That's been over. How long ago was that? That was like a month ago. He's still not back. So what the hell is going on there? Then you've got players that had no injury at all, like Vlahovic. They missed 2 games. Now, okay, there might be a reason for some of these. Why? There might be a reason that for Vlahovic being out for 2 games. What I'm saying is there's too many of these players in total that are supposed to be minor injuries, and their recoveries are taking way, way longer than they usually should take. And that for me, I find this astonishing because a lot of these players that are out on this long injury list, they should have been back at ages ago, and they're not back because their recoveries are taking a lot longer than they are. So what the hell is going on there? So from the injuries to the recoveries to the ACLs, it's a scandal what is going on with Juventus's injury situation, and this is exacerbating the crisis that Juventus, the Motta's, the struggles that Motta's having with the chance creation, and because the players are now exhausted, which is making that more difficult. The same players are having to play every single game. They've got no one to bring on, and we're in the such a busy part of the season now as well. So what do you think is going to happen? Juventus are going to go into the next game. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to put in another flat performance. They're probably going to drop more points. and it's just and then people are going to just blame Motta for lack of chance creation when the players are all exhausted because he's got no one to pick from. So it's that's why at the start I said it's a crisis. It's a crisis in totality between everything. And yeah, so those are the two. That's what, coming back to my initial point, the two things that need to be sorted out. Otherwise, Juventus are going to risk top four: are the chance creation and the injuries. If they don't get their, if these injury situation continues, and then connected to that the chance creation, then Juventus are going to struggle for top four.
No, I don't think they're going to struggle for top four because
I'm saying if.
Yeah, but regardless of that, because I don't expect Fiorentina and Lazio to continue down there, and I think we saw. We'll get.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Nima, if they continue the rest of the season with 12 fit players, Juventus are not going to get top four.
They can't. Like it's just not. Of course, Giuntoli has to address this in January. Otherwise, they
no, that's what I mean.
Why is he there? Like, is he on holiday?
Well, that's the other thing, Nima. Just sorry to go on and on about Juventus, but they don't have any budget in January either. So again,
if somebody wants to buy Vlahovic in January, I'd sell him if you can get the right money for him. I've given up now. I think it's just not working.
All I'll say is good luck.